Hello, and welcome to a Purpose-Driven Marriage podcast. We are Dwayne and Nadine Stewart, and we love any and all things marriage. You've tuned into the right place if you're looking for actionable, practical tips to help you overcome real-life obstacles common to real relationships. We're here to help you strive for a marriage as God has designed it and not as the world has defined it. Because why settle for a good marriage when you can have a great one? Hello, and welcome to a Purpose-Driven Marriage podcast. We're so excited. We've got some special guests on our show today.
Yes.
We've got Dan and Kay Ockey from Centsei Financial. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
All of it.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we got that right.
Is that a play off of like the Japanese word sensei?
100%.
Yes, That's the first thing I heard when I saw it. I was like, okay, that's good.
So Dan, Kay, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us.
So we're excited to have you here because in marriage, money is always seems to be a topic of either, togetherness or of contention. You know what I mean? And so I'm sure that was part of the reason why you got together and decided to kind of share your knowledge and help married couples to strengthen their marriage through finances. So we're excited to have you on. This is going to be a really good time. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And to get started, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your journey? Like what brought you here? And I think you guys are finance coaches, correct?
I mean, now we're finance coaches, but we definitely weren't when we started.
Yeah, I hear you.
Let's see. When we got married, money was a huge struggle. It was a huge problem. And it came because I had hid my real financial situation from my fiance. And when we got married, it was kind of hard to hide everything. And so it became pretty evident pretty quickly when we got married. We were married kind of young in college that I was not on a good path. I was actually living off credit cards, and I was using credit cards to pay off credit cards, and I was accumulating debt very quickly. I was going deeper into debt about $3,000 to $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had no idea when I was learning about you guys and your journey as financial coaches. I didn't know that. What was that like for you, Kay?
Yeah, I mean, hard to sum up for sure, but yeah, it was like definitely a bumpy road to start out. And when we first came together, I came from such a different mentality where I'm like, let's get budgeting, let's throw the debt out the window, pay this off as fast as we can. So it was definitely like these two extremes coming together. And at the time, initially, Dan didn't really want to change. It was kind of someday we'll make tons of money and this won't matter. He was running his own business at the time. So he had that entrepreneur spirit and lots of faith and hope in the future.
Yeah.
And I think that was initially what was so challenging, was just we had these two completely different worldviews and just crashing. And me trying to come in and say, we need a budget, let's do this, come on, was just not getting through his head. It felt like so it was rocky.
So at what point did that change? Because obviously now you guys are focused on the same goal and going towards, this together. When did the philosophies kind of meld together and become one?
Yeah. So we were arguing almost what felt like daily about money.
Was this when you were married, Dan?
Yes.
Yeah, early, but very early on, because we were able to come together and accomplish our first goal within 6 months. So it was through the engagement to beginning of our marriage. That was this
conflict period. So after one particular really painful, there was a specific moment that kind of changed it. After a very painful argument, I walked out of our apartment and slammed the door. And maybe we've all been there and for different reasons, but I had a realization of maybe it's me. Maybe my mindset and my beliefs are the problem. Not saying that Kay didn't have anything to work on, but maybe what could I potentially change? And at this point, I had never let myself go there. Specific question that went through my mind that may have been a divine thought from some help is just, do my money beliefs really matter more than my marriage?
That's a good question.
I love that. Yeah.
And the answer to me was no. I love her more than whatever I believe about money, whatever I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And but I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know who to talk to, and I didn't know how to change, but I knew I was willing to. I was willing to work with her, but I had no idea where to start. So she texted me and said, "You can come back now."
How do you use that exact phrase?
I think you said that exact phrase.
I've
And
unlocked the door.
That's exactly what I was
Yes.
going to say. I was like, "Yep, the door's unlocked. You can come in now." Yeah.
And I came back and I said, "Okay, I'm willing to do something, but we just didn't know what to do."
Mhm.
So that was the change where it went from fighting and antagonism to
Right.
Yeah.
we're a team, but we don't even know what to team up on. kind of
Right.
deal.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Dan, let me ask you this question because I know we're going to have listeners that can relate to this.
Yeah.
And so let's take it just a step further back, right? Where did your money beliefs come from?
Great question. Well, we all have money beliefs imbued at us and they come from, chiefly in our opinion, from the home, from our parents, the way
Yeah.
we saw them. And that either affects us. There's positive things we see and there's negative things we see.
Yeah.
Right.
And they affect each person differently. So it is important to think about that. My main beliefs were starting to come from, though, that I think at this point what got me into trouble is I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and which is a great book.
Great book.
But
yeah.
I'm not against Rich Dad Poor Dad, but it basically, in my naivete, encouraged me to basically say, I don't need to budget. I don't need to worry about debt. I don't need to manage money. And that, combined with all the other books in that realm, kind of put me in a belief system and habit that that money management wasn't important. Just making money and investing was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
So-
just to add on to that, one thing that we teach now is talking about different phases of wealth is what we talk about. But basically, to put it in that phrase, I think Dan was jumping to like level 3 in finances and trying to skip levels 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And so once, like, all those things are so exciting, and they are, like, you need to invest. That is very critical. You need to be thinking about how to make more money. That's definitely important.
Real estate's can be great.
Yes, all
Yeah.
things are awesome. It's just that doesn't discount all the other steps. You can't
Right.
jump to, algebra when you've never even learned addition, So it's just like those things need to be in place first. And that, I think, once we grasped onto that together, then we were like, let's get out of this as fast as we can, because we don't want to be stuck in level 1 forever. So let's, instead of trying to skip it, let's go through the hard and rip off the Band-Aid, get it done, so we can jump to the more exciting parts of money.
Okay. That's really good. So this is interesting. So now I'm thinking about, all right, you've gone through that piece of it together on your own, right? And then at some point in time, you decided, you know what? I think we want to share this with a whole lot more people, And so I'm thinking to myself, tell me about that transition. How did you because you obviously gained confidence in what you were doing. How did you kind of gain that confidence and then think that, okay, now we're ready to impart this knowledge onto other people?
Great question. So once we initially got on the same page and we were ready to make this action plan, then we kind of took off on our own journey of just every financial book, every millionaire we could interview, just we couldn't get enough. We just wanted to learn all we could about finances. And we made the goal to pay off our 20 grand of debt at the time. And we thought it was going to take us, when we calculated it all out, it was going to take us, what, a year and a half, 2 years.
And we were still, we were still in our undergrad. So
we were still in college,
Okay.
not making a lot of money.
Right.
Weds here. And we were like, okay, if we really hustle and we really scrape by, it'll take us about 2 years to make this happen. And then while we were getting all of that information and kind of developing our own, what we now call financial growth system, when we were creating that just for ourselves, we were able to cut that time from 2 years to 6 months.
Wow.
Pay that off in 6 months as college students. So we were just on fire. We're excited about this. We're like, okay, let's share this, basically, not teaching people or making a business out of it at that point, but just wanting to get the word out that this is possible. And at the time when we were in debt, we felt like we were the only people in the world that struggled with money, because it's such a taboo topic and nobody's talking about the fact that they're, swamped or having a hard time with things. And so we end up sharing a blog article sharing the story that we paid this off in 6 months. And then we got way more feedback than we expected of just people appreciating the vulnerability. Like, we struggle with this too. Like, teach us more about, like, how did you do this? What happened? And just started getting conversations started. So then we started teaching people in our living room, and then that expanded, teaching people to online, just live Zoom classes. And then that expanded to online courses, being on podcasts, all of that. To now we have about how many coaches? 16, 17
Nice.
coaches. And then we coach as well. So yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow. So you developed a system that you've been able to teach other coaches, then go on to teach couples.
That's right.
All for couples or individuals too?
Well, 80% couples.
Okay.
So we do work with individuals, but we target working with couples.
Okay.
Wow, that's incredible. With you guys having been so young when you started this, was that, really the people that grew interested in what it is that you had to teach?
I think initially, yes, for
Okay.
sure. Just, I think that's who related the most. They like grasped on the story. But now it's been so cool to see, like, we've coached people that are like 70.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
People who are, younger than us, just barely starting out.
Yeah.
So really, all the system applies to everyone. But yes, initially, I would say that was kind of our initial group.
We've had 1,100 households go through the program in the last 7 years. And so
that's incredible.
And so we've seen a lot, right? Right now, the oldest person in the program is 83.
Wow.
And the youngest is 18.
Yes. You're never too young and you're never too old, right?
Yeah.
To start.
Exactly.
So I'm really curious about the program. And so I want us to be able to talk about that later in this episode. But I do have a question, because it seems to me that things weren't going to change until you guys decide to come together and make the change together. Right. And so how important do you think the two of you as husband and wife at the time coming together to solving the financial issue you guys were going through? Like, could you have done that alone, Dan?
No, impossible without doing that. And I know that may be a little bit discouraging for some people to hear, but finances bleeds into everything you do as a couple. It touches everything. And it's not, Kay likes to say, it's not like taking out the trash. One of you can't. You both have to be involved and understand what's going on. And you both have to agree on where we're going and why, and what's the plan, and have a plan.
Yeah.
And so we won't even take consultations with couples. I mean, we want to help individual partners who are struggling, but we'll tell them this program isn't for you until you can get your spouse here. And here's some ideas to do that, but it just won't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on your Instagram, I saw you talking about financial check-ins. And that's really the topic of this whole episode, is really understanding how important financial check-ins are. What are they? How often should you be talking about money in your marriage?
Yes. So yeah, the financial check-in is so critical, mostly for the same reasons that we talked about, how money just bleeds into everything. So I think lots of times we want it to be like, oh, I'll just pay the bills, or, oh, I'll just check the credit card statement. I want to be a money avoider, and I'm just going to like not worry about this and it'll all work out. But it's not going to work very well that way for sure. So the financial check-in, in our opinion, lots of people recommend monthly, but we think that you should meet weekly for a check-in. So a quick 15-30 minute check-in versus a 5-hour monthly meeting is more effective in our opinion. One, because it definitely can get, especially at the beginning when you're not practicing, it can get heated. There can be things blowing up, and our goal is to not get there. We don't want it to like turn into this huge argument and whatnot. So keeping it regular like that helps, so that when something comes up, you're not having to wait a whole month to talk about it, or bringing it up like, oh, when they're doing the dishes or something, you're like, hey, I saw this credit card bill. What was that for? And, and they're like, what? Like totally out of left field. You don't know if they've had a hard day. You don't know any of the background of what's going on. So weekly for that reason. Also, you can do a lot more damage control. So at the end of the month, it's like, oh, we went over budget. Whoops. Or like next month.
Damage is done, right?
But
Yeah.
yeah, but if you are
Can make
meeting weekly, you're
corrections.
like, oh, okay, what do we have coming up? We have that
Right.
birthday party for our son on Saturday. How are we going to afford the present that they need to bring? Where's that money coming from? And oh, in 2 weeks, we wanted to go on that double date with our friend. We got to make sure there's money for that. And like you can do more planning and discussion before those things happen so that you can make sure you're sticking with the plan that you've created.
That's awesome. I mean, it is as essential as, when we talk about couples getting together and doing date nights, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those types of things. As you talked about it, I'm thinking, okay, this is the same thing, and it's really important for couples to get together to talk about finances. So what would be some of the essential things that you suggest couples talk about during those weekly gatherings?
So, I mean, we have a checklist, and if it's okay, this is the checklist we give our clients. I'll read it off to you if you're okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like that you make it like simple. You know what I mean? Because the other thing that I was thinking about was if people make it a monthly thing and it's going to be 2 hours or whatever to sit down and talk through it, it could seem complicated and it can seem daunting. So then they might avoid it. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes doesn't seem like that much of time to put towards it. And so it's like, okay, let's sit down, let's do our thing. And then we move on and just have dinner. You know what I mean? It seems a lot easier and simpler. Yeah.
Yeah. And the problems that a lot of couples face is they don't have any structure to these meetings.
Yeah.
So it just like kind of goes off in a million directions. And so if you have like, nope, these are the checklist items we just got to check off, then we're done. It makes it a lot easier. So here's what the checklist items are. First, I think prayer is a great way to start. We think prayer is a great way to start. And then we give our clients access to Monarch Money. So that's our automatic tracker. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to go through the 10 to 15 transactions or more for the week, depending on the size of your family. If you've got 6 kids, you might have a few more expenses. And you're going to categorize those to your budget. Then you're going to go over your budget. How are we going to keep this plan that we've made? Are we on track to do that? Do we need to make any changes?
Yeah.
The third, if you've made any income, we tithe. If you don't tithe, then you don't need to worry about that when you tithe. Fourth, pay all bills and do any investments that are not automated. We recommend that you pay off your credit card weekly just to keep it in line with using it as a debit card. So pay it off then. We set up a short-term savings, which is basically stuff that doesn't happen monthly. So think like Christmas and stuff like that. Spend any money from those categories. We reimburse ourselves for that. We transfer money to our main goal. We encourage our clients to have one goal. And then you discuss upcoming expenses. What are over the next 4 weeks? What is that birthday party? What is that double date?
Yeah.
Then you discuss upcoming expenses over the next 3 months. Oh, coming to town. Maybe we should set aside some money for that. Then you review your roadmap together, which is basically your plan. You do any finance to-do list items. You compliment each other on something you feel like you're both doing well. You schedule in when your next one is, and then you discuss how you both feel. And that is, that may sound like a lot. If you just go through those and you get practice, it really is 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So you guys are paying bills together?
So any that are not automated.
Okay.
The main goal is to automate all investing, automate all bills so that like most of the finance stuff is happening in the background. And when you're getting together, you're just checking in on it. So you're like, okay, everything went where it needed to go. Oh, we got an extra commission check. Let's make sure we invest the portion of that we need to. So there might be some little things like that, but majority, we set up all of that with our clients, like making sure everything you can automate is automated.
Yeah.
And then also when we do these check-ins, sometimes it is like you do these 3 tasks, you do these 3 tasks, then we come back and say, okay, like report back basically. So you're not necessarily sitting there being like, what was our utilities this month? Check. Okay, you push the button after me. Like it definitely, you can divide and conquer. It's more just like those one-off things and any discussion points that you need. And then coming together and saying like, okay, we did it. Check, check, check.
Okay.
Done.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah. So we're not clicking the button together. It's just, here's the scheduled time. I'm maybe paying tithing. She's paying the bill. Takes 3 minutes each. We come back together. Okay, done. Let's move on.
How important is it for you to have shared responsibility in this? Because I can foresee, certain couples just like, okay, I don't want to deal with it. You go ahead and do all of it and then come together and then we'll talk about it, right? How important is that?
Oh man, very critical. But I agree that it's very easy. That's why I say the saying of like, it's like taking out the trash. Like you take out the trash, I'll do the dishes. But it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. It is, in theory, sounds so simple to like have one person do it. But I think what happens when we do it that way is all of those arguments or all of those things. Because like if I, for example, if I was the only one managing the money, I'm keeping all this in my head of what we're doing, how much is going here, there, whatever, and we're not talking about it. Dan's not doing anything. And then I come to Dan and I say, Dan, okay, our credit card bill, you know, is a little high and we're trying to cut down on our things. And he's like, okay, cut back on spending. It's good. And then he comes home with, I don't know, Chick-fil-A or something. I'm like, what? I just told you that you're supposed to cut back on spending. How's that going to fit in it? And my mind is like understanding all that, but he has no clue. He's like, it was a $20 Chick-fil-A charge. Like, what do you mean? That's not anything. And then now we're fighting over Chick-fil-A, but it's not actually Chick-fil-A that we're fighting over. There's so much more deep things happening in that one-off scenario. So I think being able to both understand where are we going? What are we trying to do? What's our timeline? What do these individual things look like? Helps us to both take ownership of that. And then if one of us does overspend, we both can like look at the problem together instead of putting the blame on one of us.
Oh, guys, the marriage coach in me is like, bravo. Like, this is amazing. Like, I'm loving everything about this. In fact, as you're talking, I'm having the hardest time trying to make my face serious. I can't stop. I can't stop smiling.
I saw you smiling. I was like, because I looked at you and I was like, she's really loving this right now.
Why isn't this taught in every premarital counseling session?
No doubt.
Right. Like I counsel a lot of engaged couples, right? I do premarital counseling and we have, systems, we have relationship assessments, all sorts of things. And the financial part of it, we do touch on, like we touch on their philosophies when it comes to money and things like that. But this would prevent, like it's a preventative measure, right? Like imagine how many arguments this can help to prevent if couples would just go through this. Like they go through premarital counseling and then they go through like financial counseling before they get married.
Yes.
All right, there you go. That's another business idea.
Yeah.
Like, throw that in there, Dan.
We got all sorts of stuff to work on together now.
Yeah. The thing that I was thinking about is, when people come to you, Nadine, it's, they're having some sort of conflict. There's a challenge that they're dealing with and they say, we can't solve it. Help us to do that. How do you help couples work through that piece of it? Because some people are like, okay, we're doing okay. We just need to be more organized. And then some people probably come to you and they're like, we have a giant mess on our hands. We need you to help us. Like, how do you help people kind of start that process and walk through it?
Yeah, great question. So I think first off, we're not therapists. We're not, we're coaches. And so if there are deeper problems, we're going to send them to the people who need to help them, that are the right people. But if a couple, it comes to us and they're basically the same thing, we don't know what to do, but we're willing to work together. The core of, in our opinion, of what most people's financial problems are is there's not a system. There's not a system in the background. And this weekly check-in is the glue that holds the whole system together.
Yeah.
But there isn't a system entirely that prevents so many issues and problems from coming down. And if couples can implement that system and get that as part of who they are, it really avoids problems and allows couples to accelerate towards specific, purposeful, meaningful goals for their marriage and family that unite them in a way that few other things can. Because when you work together on something, you become that's a team. And so how do we help couples do that? The key is basically setting up you talked about systems in with your pre-marriage counseling, and I'm sure post-marriage too. The main thing is there's a step-by-step process to setting up a complete and holistic system of managing money that then allows you to stop stressing and start progressing.
I love it.
You know what this made me think of? So Dan Kay, in all relationships, when we experience conflict, they often fall under one of three categories. So they're either solvable, they're perpetual, or they're gridlocked. When financial problems come up. I mean, like I said earlier, financial issues are one of the top 5 things that couples argue about in their relationship. And oftentimes it's because, as you mentioned, Dan, it is deeply rooted in, where we came from, right? Our upbringing, our families of origin, and just the mindset that we developed growing up from what we saw or what we experienced, right? And so because financial issues often fall under that gridlock category, which, the solvable conflict are things that you can solve. Hey, do you want Mexican food? Do you want Chinese food? Right? Like, oh, we've had Mexican food twice. Let's go have Chinese. Now we had that last week. Okay, we're going to go get burgers. Right? So that's solvable, right? Perpetual, it's the same issues that keep coming up over and over. And usually those are the things that are deeply rooted, in childhood and in our upbringing and things like that. And unfortunately, that makes up almost 70% of the things that we argue about, that we fight about in our relationships. The gridlock issues are the ones that are the perpetual issues that we are now like this, right? Like we're not budging, right? This is an issue that, it may keep coming up over and over, but neither one of us is budging. From what I'm hearing from you guys is that you have been able to develop a system that you can share, right? That you coach people through so that it doesn't matter if they have the mindset of a saver or a spender or whatever it is that came from childhood. You are introducing something that's completely different, right? Like it doesn't matter what your mindset is, what you're coming to the marriage with. This is a neutral system that organizes you in such a way that allows you to take a perpetual or an unsolvable, right, gridlock issue and actually turn it into something that you can solve.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
I think I'm going to need to clip that and share it with everybody. You said that very well. Yes. Yes. It's not my way. It's not Kay's way. It's our way. Yeah. And there's a third party system you can latch on and work together on that then becomes the new method of operating that completely makes all those other elements, they're real, they're valid, but they become irrelevant.
Okay. Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because then people are less likely to fight about it because it's not about doing it your way or my way, but doing it the right way.
The way.
Right? No, that's amazing. So people hear this episode and maybe money is not something they felt comfortable talking about. How do you suggest they start the conversation?
That's a really good question. What I would suggest not doing is coming and saying, let's sit down and do this whole financial checklist right now. They would probably run the other direction.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
So I do think being open and listening is like, communication 101. But we do have like a list of discussion questions that talk about your financial past. And I think that really does help if you really are like, have never talked about money before and you're just barely wanting to open the door. I think that really helps you lead with like, I want to understand you versus jumping right into like, here's my plan and this is what we need to do. I just saw these like charges and I'm really stressed about money and then all of your emotions are just like word vomiting on everyone.
Right.
So I think being able to start there with asking about their past, what do you want out of life? What are you thinking about our finances and how were you raised with money? What were memories that you remember? I think all of those things definitely are a great starting point if you are like, have never talked about money before.
The other thing I'll say to that is I'm just cognizant always of the people potentially listening where they're like, I want this so bad for my marriage, but my partner will not talk about it. They will not.
Right.
And that's it's such a hard spot to be. I see you.
Yes.
I know that you're listening to this. There's someone listening to this where that's your situation.
There's a lot more of those people than we realize.
Definitely.
Yes. The main thing is a couple things. One, continue to pray for your spouse, obviously. And the second is we can't change them. They have to choose. But as you stop making them the problem and show them that you care and be as their teammate and say, look, I understand that money is a topic for you that you don't really want to talk about. I do. I'm ready to do this whenever you are, but I am willing to wait till you're ready. And I'm going to respect that. I would like you to do it right now, but if you're not ready for that, I respect you. if you are willing, here's this podcast. I would love to have you listen to on your own time, or we can listen to together. I respect what you'd like to do. Let's read this book. Whatever you're willing to do and ready to start, let's just start there. And I'm not going to push you any further than that.
Yeah.
But respect and celebrate the wins of the incremental things your partner is willing to do as their teammate already. And I'm on your team and we're facing this problem, not each other. And so if that's your situation, take the wins, make the offers, be patient, continue to pray. And it is my personal belief that eventually those doors will be opened if you keep showing that love and that patience and making those bids, but also stating clearly where you stand. You're not bending over and being weak here. You're being clear about what you want. I want to get our finances organized.
Right.
But I can't do it without you because we need each other.
Right.
Well, let me take that question one step further. Okay, so let's say it's not the partner that wants to talk about finances that's listening to this. Maybe it's the one who has not wanted to talk about finances, and maybe it's because they've hidden money from their partner, right? Maybe there is the fear that, oh no, if we do this, they're going to find out that I've been hiding something. And really, that is the obstacle. That's the roadblock that keeps them from wanting to take that next step, which they know to be healthy for the relationship, but they don't want their partner, their spouse, to find out that they have the secret.
They fear the consequences of if we talk finances, you're going to find out I'm
all this stuff.
Exactly. I've been hiding
find out
this.
you're
I've
Dan.
got this account. Exactly. Well, that's why I'm asking this question. I'm like, I know, looking at your Instagram reels, I saw a video of you confessing something about that. So I'm like, Dan, he knows this all too well. So what if there's another Dan out there?
Yeah. So if you're Dan, meaning you've hidden things from your spouse that they don't know about, I understand the concern and that you feel for your spouse of you don't want to hurt them. And you know deep down that what you've done is wrong. I'll share another example real quick to this. I think this is the reel you're referencing. After we were married, after we had paid off our debt, after we had gotten unified, I took our entire life savings and invested it in the stock market without telling Kay.
Oh,
sorry, my heart just started racing a little bit.
Hey, this just got real.
Yeah,
this is for real now. Okay,
we may need to take a break real quick.
Okay,
and I knew that was not the right thing to do.
Right.
But I still didn't care enough to let it stop me.
Yeah,
and so again, I think it comes down to the reality of recognizing that I'm married to the most wonderful person, and are my money habits and past mistakes and beliefs more important than our relationship and our marriage? And the answer for me is no.
Emphatically.
No, she is our marriage. She is more important to me. And so that means I have to set aside my mistakes, my weaknesses, my imperfections, so that we can rise together. We can't progress without each other in marriage. And so completely, we can make improvements on ourselves, right? But to truly get to where we want to go in our relationship, we have to do it together. We have to be transparent. And so the sacrifice and the cost to do that, which is what I want with all my heart, is to make things right when I've made a mistake, regardless of the consequences, because there's no other way forward.
Yeah, but Kay, as the one whose trust was broken, how do you accept that?
Yeah, I think in both scenarios, I think Dan's willingness to change was so apparent. Like it was like a complete 180.
Okay.
That I think that like expedite, like, yes, the trust was broken and it still did take time to heal and trust each other again and all of that stuff. But I think because that change was so apparent, that spoke really loudly and was able to help us come together more,
Oh, I love that. Because I tell couples all the time, like when trust is broken, it's not like, apologizing or even taking accountability for it and then saying, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. That rarely does it result in, and okay, I trust you again, right? Like it just doesn't happen like that. But it's in the actions, Dan. It's in how you followed through after you took accountability, and it's in the small things that you did consistently over time that allowed the trust to start building back up.
Yeah.
6 years of financial check-ins have helped.
Amen.
Oh,
Amen.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's good. I mean, it's to me, it's really all about the mindset change, right? I mean, when you change you show your heart to your wife and you understand that the mistake was made, and then you own up to it, and you hold yourself accountable to it. And then you talk about, this is how I would want to move forward and change things. It makes it a whole lot easier for her to follow that. You know what I mean? It makes it a lot easier instead of, it wasn't that bad, or, whatever. Not really owning up to it would make it a lot more difficult. So that's a praise for sure. And it's definitely the way that I think the model that people should take if that does happen for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So this is one of our last questions here. So what's the best piece of financial advice that I was going to say you've applied in your marriage, but I think I've heard some of that. But what would you recommend for other people?
The best piece of advice, and this has been a great conversation around lots of things.
Yeah.
The cliche quote that came to mind, and I think it was from a most recent Mufasa movie. There's a song about this, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I want to go far with Kay. I don't want to be rich without Kay.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing
It's not
good.
fun. It's not fun that way anyway.
Yeah, it's not as fun. I want her with me. And so the way to do that is to do it together and get a system.
I love that.
I think that's great.
What's so funny is I always have a Disney quote floating around in my mind.
Hakuna Matata. What is it?
You don't end up with 6 kids and not have a Disney quote.
Oh,
It's true. It's so true.
Because mine is the one from Frozen.
Oh,
Mine is, when you don't know what to do, you just do the next right thing.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I
Right.
like it.
And that's what this is. It'd be the next right thing, right? Especially if trust has been broken, especially if the conversation about finances has never happened.
Yeah.
Really at the end of the day, especially since, most of our audience are Christian couples, being good stewards of our finances is something that we are called to be,
do, yeah.
to do, right? Is it to do, to be?
Yeah.
That is the question.
All of
All
that.
of us.
Mhm.
All the above, right? And so this is the right thing. Mhm.
I think you guys have an amazing story, and I love that you are promoting togetherness. I think that is most important, because I think about some of the couples that come into this at a later stage in their life, and they've already kind of either created good or bad habits, but they're their own habits. You know what I mean? And they would have a tendency to want to continue to do those things and not really come together and be one and really focus on their financial future together. You know what I mean? And so the systems that you guys put together, and then also just the philosophy of making sure that people are thinking about each other first and not their own self, is great. And I think there's a lot of people that can learn from this, and you've already affected a lot of people. And I do feel like this is really awesome content and really good information. So we applaud you. Great job.
We want to ask you guys, number one, where can people find you? How can, if they're interested in learning what you teach, how can they connect with you, right? Like, let us know, where can people find you? How can they connect with you? What are the next steps?
Yes, of course. So we're on Instagram, Centsei Financial. We're both on LinkedIn. That's probably where we're most active.
Yeah.
But if you're wanting to dive in as a first kind of intro to hear more about our story, more about this whole system that we're talking about, we have a free budgeting class, and that is a great kind of low ball suggestion. No pressure. You not have to take the next step, which would be a free consult, but just even to get those conversations going without it being so you and versus me. It's okay, let's just watch this and discuss what we think about it. That can be a great place to start as well.
And can we put a link to that class in our show notes so that people can just click on it and it'll take them straight to your website or wherever that will take them?
Yeah,
100%. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Perfect.
We love this conversation. This was great.
Oh, me too.
I love
And I feel like we need to spell Centsei Financial.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Well, you got the hat, so that's helpful.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is
Yeah,
true.
true.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
can see it.
Yep.
We can. Yeah.
Yep.
we can.
Cent. I love the play on words. So cent,
Yeah.
CENT, like dollars and
Cents.
cents, and then say SEI,
Yeah.
financial.
I like it.
Right. Well, Dan, Kay, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, this has been, I mean, it actually taught me a lot. Now I'm curious to find out what the next steps look like with you guys. And so I'll be clicking on that financial class because I'm super interested. And thank you everyone for listening to this episode of a Purpose Driven Marriage podcast. We will see you next week.
Next time.
Thanks for having us.